Welcome to the CSN3M podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on mentoring, mindsets, and myth busting, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. Today's topic falls in the category of myth busting. Our topic today is a very interesting one. It's body fat. And what I want to discuss today about body fat is the realization that there is a bell curve in the benefits of body fat. And this is addressing a very weight loss focused population, which I deal with on a day-to-day basis, and sort of the fat phobia that's begun to exist in the United States as a result of this big drive to lose weight. We all are aware of the fact that excess body fat can lead to health problems. Excess fat cells secrete hormones. Those hormones, as we gain weight, get louder and louder and can lead to things like insulin resistance, which can cause diabetes, can lead to rises in blood pressure and cholesterol levels, which increase risk factors for heart disease, can impair digestion, can lead to sleep apnea, which impairs sleep and energy levels, and so on and so forth. Most of us are very, very well aware of that. There are so many initiatives out there targeting weight loss and focus on weight loss. Most people go to their doctor and they step on the scale and they get their body mass index and they're told how much weight they need to lose. But there is another side to this equation. There is the other side of the curve, so to speak. And I think it's the part that isn't spoken about that needs to be, because it's a very important concept that is the difference between people fearing fat versus understanding fat. And more importantly, when you're trying to change your body and change your life, you need to have an understanding of where you're going. And so what's worth saying out loud is that body fat is at base completely essential. We need body fat. Many people, particularly in the United States, have too much of it, which is why we have sort of a war on it, if you will. That said, there is an essential amount of body fat that every man and every woman needs. It does simple things in our body, such as creating insulation to help regulate body temperature. It serves as a cushion or barrier so that if you get into a fender bender, your spleen doesn't explode. It serves as a buffer between your brain and the fluid and your skull so that you're not at risk of extreme brain trauma anytime you shake your head or sneeze. And it does a lot more complex things, such as help us create and manage our hormone levels. So men, testosterone levels, and women, estrogen levels in particular, body fat is essential for producing and regulating those things. And the reason that's an important thing to understand is when you have too much body fat, those levels get negatively affected. But when you have too little body fat, those levels also get negatively affected. So there is such a thing as too little body fat, which means when we're trying to lose weight, the goal is not to wither away to nothing. It is to get into a healthy range that feels good. Too often, I see people become very, very critical of their fat and critical of any body fat, and they want to get to a point where they have none. And that is to a great disadvantage. Something that's worth considering is body fat is actually essential for physical and athletic performance. When your body fat gets too low, metabolism starts to slow down, and as a result, muscles don't perform as well, strength and power output goes down, concentration goes down, and again, the body cannot perform. And so when we even look at athletes, I like to tell people to think about the fitness model that's on the front of that magazine that has shredded abs and 4% body fat. The reality is they're being posterized as the image of health, but chances are they were a healthy athletic person closer to 10% body fat and then starved themselves and dieted down so that they could look good on that magazine. And when that picture was taken, chances are they were mentally exhausted, they were probably dehydrated, they were physically weak, and if you asked them to bench press any sort of weight or run any sort of distance, they would have been physically unable to do it because inadequate body fat impairs physical ability. So what is the range, you ask, as I can tell? For men, the ideal range for body fat really is around 6 to 18% body fat. And again, there are some people that are naturally going to be a little leaner than that, but for the most of us, we're going to fall somewhere in that range. 15 to 18% body fat is actually considered normal for a male. 12 to 15% is what we'd call the lean range. 8 to 12 is what we'd call the fit or athletic range. And then when you get below 8, you start to get into what we call extra lean. Most athletes that are performing in sports that require power, so football, rowing, basketball, swimming, most of those sports, we find that that 8 to 12% is sort of a sweet spot. And it varies a little bit from person to person. And I can't emphasize this enough. Just because a friend of yours is naturally very lean and seems to eat whatever he or she wants doesn't mean that everybody can naturally get that lean. For me personally, I've always been somebody that when I hang out around 10% body fat, I feel powerful, I feel strong, I feel fast, I have great cardiovascular endurance in my runs, and I'm able to race well. But if I diet myself down to 7 or 8%, I lose strength, I lose power, I lose my energy, my mile time and my 5K times all start to slip a little bit because I don't have the adequate energy that I need. And it's partially because my body does not burn the same amount of calories. And more importantly, when I feed myself, if I feed myself the right amount of food, my body likes to have 10% body fat, so it prioritizes doing that. And that's not good or bad, that just is. And so it's something to keep in mind that body fat has a lot of benefit and is, again, very valuable for us in a lot of ways. For women, body fat is very misunderstood. I oftentimes, if I'm going to take body composition with my female clients, I ask them if they know what the normal range is, because most of the time they don't. The normal range for a female is actually 25 to 30% body fat. We have to keep in mind that men at that 15 to 18, that distinction between men and women, that is the difference between testosterone and estrogen. That is the difference between breasts and pecs, if you will. And that said, women can get leaner. 20 to 24% is that what we call that lean range, and then 16 to 20% is what we'd call that extra lean or that fit range. Women going below 16%, for the most part, again, there's always exceptions to this, but for the most part, women that get below and then stay below that 16% will find that their estrogen levels will start to suppress. Many women will lose their menstrual cycle or stop menstruating, which tells us that their estrogen balance is no longer in tow. Calcium storage and bone density starts to decrease, and other negative factors start to take place. When I work with female athletes that are, again, power-based, so Olympic lifting or rowing, 20% body fat is generally a good target. If I'm working with a runner or a biker whose goal is to be as light and limber as possible, 16 to 18% becomes that goal. It's worth saying out loud that when women are competing in bodybuilding shows, the goal is generally to get down to 10 and 12% body fat, which once again, that can become a problem culturally because we start to look at those females stepping on stage with that composition and thinking that that's the goal, when in reality that is a temporarily created reality so that they can compete in their sport, right? They can show conditioning, they can show muscle mass, but that is not when they're athletic. And you can ask any bodybuilding competitor that has competed at that level, when they get below that 16, 15, 14% body fat, strength starts to plummet, energy starts to plummet, sex drive goes down, fatigue starts to increase. All these problems start to surface, and it's because the body is not meant to be that lean. It does not benefit from being that lean. So that once again, there is a floor to body fat. Overall, I wanted to make sure people understand that there is a bell curve to this. And so when you're in your weight loss journey, or if you're an athlete that's not focused so much on the weight loss, but is more focused on the aesthetics, I encourage my clients to keep in mind what their goal is. I get a ton of people that come in here and their goal is to perform, yet they're trying to change their body composition in a way that's not actually going to support their performance. And again, I get a lot of people that come into the office and are focused on weight loss, and their goals are to get shredded or to get down to a body fat that's unrealistic. And once again, what that does is it sort of defeats the purpose of weight loss in the first place. The overarching goal of weight loss is supposed to be symbolic of improving health. And unfortunately, in our culture, we've gotten very far away from that. Weight loss now is a race, and it's meant to be this sort of challenge to see how quickly you can drop pounds or you can change your body. It's not about the commitment to lifestyle, which is really what we're about here at Case-Specific Nutrition, helping people find their lifestyle, finding what is healthy for them, given their realities, given their goals, and given, again, what they have physically going on from an exercise perspective and genetically. So I hope this was a helpful podcast for you. It's meant to change the mind a little bit and help challenge and present maybe a new reality, which is that body fat is not good or bad. It's something that needs to be in balance, just like everything else in our life. Moderation, while boring, is really what needs to be preached. If you're interested in learning more about the benefits of body fat as a refreshing perspective, because I think too many people spend all their time hearing about why it's so bad or why it's negative, there's a great book called The Secret Life of Fat by Sylvia Tara. I read it a couple years ago and I thought it was a very refreshing take. If you're a nerd like me, she digs into a lot of the science behind why fat is essential. She discusses how it benefits and affects our metabolism and all sorts of good things that I sort of hinted at. So once again, that is The Secret Life of Fat by Sylvia Tara. And you can also find more information by reaching out to us here at Case Specific Nutrition. We work with people on a regular basis with these exact kind of mindsets in motion. What is best for you as an individual, hence Case Specific Nutrition. I'd like to thank you again for listening. Please subscribe and share for content updates. For more CSN content, you can follow us on our social media. We are Case Specific Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Have a great night.